give an opening statement, and then at that point, you go ahead and just fire questions away. All we ask is that if you please just address who it is that you want to talk to, that person can come up to the microphone. Be happy to talk about anything West Virginia, about the team, all that type of stuff. We would obviously encourage the Sports Illustrated shop. Once everybody gets their stuff set in place, Taylor, you can get in there.
Yeah.
Coach Pitzer, how was the week off?
Week off. It wasn't off, trust me.
Bye week.
Friday I was down in Houston, all right, in storms, and Saturday I was in cornfields in Iowa watching a junior college linebacker play. So, without trying to be funny though, it was good. We had some physical practices last week. Got to jump on West Virginia, of course. Fundamentally, we had a good week. You know, that's the time when fundamentally you can work on some things like playing off blocks, tackling, shed and cut blocks, and then schematically doing some things that we want to try against West Virginia. So it's very productive. Got some people healthy too, so that's always good.
Talk about West Virginia.
I mean, everybody sees the obvious. They've struggled offensively a couple games, but if you look at that Maryland game, they went up and down the field on them, and then all of a sudden they have 6 turnovers. So, it's just one of those days that just wasn't working out. They got weapons. Quarterback can throw the ball. 2 good running backs with Sims and Smith. And Coach Holgerson does a tremendous job of spreading the field and the screen game and the vertical game and the vertical under game, and it's a test on us defensively to defend all that. So we got a big challenge ahead of us, and they're wounded right now, and that's what's scary is they're getting things corrected this week, and I'm sure being back in front of their home crowd, they're going to be ready to play. So it's a big challenge for us.
Glenn, I asked Dana this morning how things change in a matchup when you know the guy on the other side pretty well. Obviously, he was here just 1 year, but you guys got to know him a little bit in practice and scrimmage situations. How does it change it for you when you're approaching somebody you know pretty well?
Well, I don't know if he'll say the same thing. Knowing him, I'm sure he would. It comes down to execution. It comes down to, that they're going to have some new wrinkles for us just to try to, get some things. But at the same time, it comes down to blocking and tackling and catching the ball. And for us, seeing routes and pattern reading and, hitting the right gaps and just fundamentally sound. On our side, you just against really anybody, not just him, but anybody, one mistake and a fit on a gap, and it's a big play. So every play, it's on the line for us. And he does a great job of seeing that through the course of a game. If we're taking away something, I think he's got a great mind in finding something else to attack. So it's fun. I've got a lot of respect for him and what they do offensively. I always have, and again, it's a big challenge.
Coach, coming out of non-conference, going into conference, you have a guy or a group of guys you would consider to be the MVP or the MVPs of the defense so far?
We've had a lot of guys stand out. These 2 beside me right here are champions in my book, and they're the heartbeat of what we're doing. But we got some others too. I don't want to single out anybody because it's a collective effort, and sometimes people don't see when one guy makes a great play, what's caused it. Daytawion might make a great play on forcing the ball, and Caleb's there to make the tackle. Well, without him, that doesn't happen. Or Caleb might hit the right gap, and the back sees him and spills out, and Daytawion makes a tackle, but nobody sees that, why it all fits together. So it's a cohesiveness of what we're doing and everybody knowing each other's role. And, it all comes down to next week. Nothing what they've done in the past matters. I tell them that every day, and, they think I'm probably too negative all the time, but hopefully after the end of the season it's going to pay off.
Glenn, what's the key to this program over the last 5 or 6 years being so successful on the road in Big 12 play? What is it about how Gundy prepares the staff and the players, and what just allows you guys to be so successful on the road?
Well, just right off the bat, because without analyzing it too much, I think we do a great job of the consistency of not wavering, and So you come off a loss, a tough loss, of not panicking and thinking you have to change everything, of staying, on a steady course. And these guys know what to expect every week. They know what we're going to do Sunday night. They know how Tuesday practice is going to be. When we travel on the road, they know the routine. They know we're going to go have a walkthrough. They're going to watch film. We're going to study, and we're going to treat it like a business trip. All that being said, the reason we've been successful on the road is because our players have played well. These guys have performed. Take that all out of it. It comes down to when the lights come on and that first ball is snapped, are they executing? And if anything is to be attributed, I think that's the biggest thing. We've had good players.
Glenn, you've got a huge senior class. Both these guys on either side of your senior. You got a number of senior starters. You know what to expect out of them, but how much does having those guys grow the younger kids up that much quicker, because there are so many older guys in the program involved?
Yeah, I think there's a great deal of success that breeds success type of attitude going on, and these guys beside me and a group of other seniors being good examples. And I think they'll tell you when they were younger, they had some great examples. They had some Markel Martins. They had some Ori Lemons up front. And so I think that's some things you just can't coach. And that's some things that we're benefiting now of having some success when these guys were freshmen and sophomores, of seeing guys do it right, seeing guys make good decisions on and off the field, and hopefully emulating them and say that's the way to get it done. And we're fortunate now with what Coach Gundy's done is you have that installed in a program. You don't have to bring that to life. You don't have to create that. It's there, and we need to just take advantage of every ounce of that. And hopefully there's some, young linebackers and young safeties looking at these two guys and saying, that's how you approach a game. That's how you approach a game week. That's how you practice on a Tuesday when you don't feel like it, when you're about to beat somebody's head in for 2 hours and come off with a headache. And that's how you win games. It isn't by talking. It isn't by running your mouth. It's about practice and practice and more practice, and then executing on Saturday.
I wonder if both you guys, the players, can address this. You guys know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're an improved defense this season, or would you yourself like to see more evidence?
I think for the most part, I feel like as a unit we're just closer, but I don't feel like we proved nothing yet. I mean, we're just now getting into conference play, so it's still a lot of football to be played, and we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, like D'Lo said, it's kind of a different defense, but we haven't proven anything yet. We've only had 3 games. So, we just need to continue to be humble, because that's the only way we can really improve, is not to get cocky and stay level-headed.
Of the 3 games you played so far, would you say that one of those games represented what you want to be more defensively than the other 2 games?
The games that we, didn't give up much points, that was, good on the defensive part. But, really, it's just a game-by-game thing. The defense changes, the offense changes, so there's really nothing you can stick to. But, as long as we can continue to, keep points off the board, we should be pretty happy.
Caleb, kind of the same question I asked Glenn is just what's the key to this program being so successful on the road, as far as just how you mentally approach going on the road, and what do you expect out of going to Morgantown, because that is somewhere you guys have never gone before?
I think, like Coach Spencer said, it's kind of routine. It makes it a lot easier, everyone knowing what's going on, and just having that routine to fall back on, but also a lot of the leadership. D'Lo and a lot of the defensive guys and offensive guys, they know how to conduct themselves on the road. And, it's easy to tell people what to do, but, it's another thing to lead by example, and that's what a lot of the guys do. Make it a lot easier for the rest of the team to follow in suit.
Hey, each of you guys, tell me one thing you did over the weekend to get away from football and kind of clear your mind.
I didn't get away from football. I went to the Carl Albert game, so, it was just, I was just able to be able to chill and watch football, I guess you can say. So it really wasn't no pressure on getting yelled at the next day.
I just relaxed. I got to swim, which was different, but, I tried to watch some of the college games that were on, and, I I guess I didn't really get too far from football either, but it was good to kind of relax and clear your head a little bit.
Do you guys prefer the bye week, or would you guys rather have been playing this past weekend?
I always want to play
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, but I mean, it's beneficial. You get extra work in, you get guys healthy, so I mean, it's well needed.
Anything else for the defensive players or Coach Spencer?
What have you noticed about Childress? You know, they made the switch at quarterback. How much have you watched of him in the 2 games he's played for West Virginia?
It's really they really running the same thing. It's the same kind of scheme. It's just a different quarterback, and I mean, both of them can throw the ball. So I mean, he can get it to his targets. So really, I just focus on being where I'm supposed to be, so I can make the play.
Hey Glenn, can you talk a little bit about this West Virginia team compared to last year? Maybe not even compared, but they lost. I mean, they lost NFL guys off of last year's team. And obviously, their offense has changed this year.
Right. I think, you know, I'm sure they're approaching this trying to find some explosive players and getting it in their hands. You know, they've got the number 6, the short kid, who you can tell he's kind of a guy, the jet sweep kind of guy. They're getting their tailbacks the ball a lot. I think they probably consider them a couple of their better athletes. So they're getting them out in receiving formations, which is very tough for us, because when you scheme, it's not like you can scheme a 2 backfield set when all of a sudden one of them shifts out and he's another wide receiver. So it challenges you as far as your play call, as far as calling off of personnel. And you know, a lot of teams like that. They're not the only people that do that, but it creates different challenges when those tailbacks are in multiple positions like they are.
For both the players, you guys still in practice do some good on good each day, but this is a week where that good on good, you know, because there's still a lot of Dana in the offense, it probably comes into play more. Talk about the advantage of those snaps you do get each day where it's one offense, one defense.
It's always good for both sides of the ball, just because, you know, it's not like going against a scout team. I mean, you have good competition, and like you said, we're going against a lot of the offensive plays that Dana still uses. So, you know, it's good competition. It's a good pace, and it's a lot faster than what we're used to. So, I mean, having that in the offense that we play against, it gives us a good opportunity to practice as well as, you know, compete.
Lowe, especially in the secondary, I would think that's pretty good with those receivers.
Right. It give us a really like a game tempo. It let us see how the ball's gonna come out, how fast it's gonna be, how they're gonna run their routes, and more crisp routes from our starting wide receivers. So I mean, it's a big advantage. It gets you ready for the game.
Glenn, you know Dana and Joe a little bit. Mm-hmm. Considering their slow start and what happened to them last week, how do you feel like they're responding over there?
I think they're going to respond great. I think they're going to come out and play the best game that they've played all year. That's the only way I can approach it. And every play, you can give up a big one if you're not ready. So you know, they're good coaches, and they're, you know, like I say, they've been wounded a little bit, and they're going to come out fighting, and yeah, it's going to be a dogfight. That's what we're expecting from play one, and I know they'll have them ready. So you know, it's a big challenge to go out there and do that on the road.
Glenn, Mike said he coached up there again when he was at Maryland. He was at Morgantown. I mean, you've been to Morgantown or not?
I've never been to Morgantown, but I'm assuming that the thing is still 100 yards long and the same width. Do you know the width? You don't.
47?
No.
43?
No.
45? Something like that.
Okay.
53.
Closer, but anyway, it's the same, and you know, we have to take all that out of it once kickoff starts. That's the problem, or not the problem, but the challenge is getting the focus ready to all those distractions, their crowd, our travel plans, new stadium. It's irrelevant. What's irrelevant is on that field and what happens when we step across the line.
Is that your best Gene Hackman then?
You got me there, Robert.
You're traveling halfway across the country for a conference game. Is it hard to wrap your head around that, or is that just college football in 2013?
Yeah, I guess so much of us, you get on a plane, and you know, how far is a plane flight? You know, once you get on a plane, you're on a plane. You know, so it's a big difference. You know, an hour or 2 hour flight. We have enough to occupy our time, but that really hasn't come into my mind.
Why have you been able to be more aggressive defensively while not giving up big plays?
You know, again, that aggressiveness word comes out again. We're just doing our stuff, Dave. We're just, we're running our stuff, and, we're just one play away from giving up a big play. So it's all about the next game, and that in the past is so far in the past. All those games, it's, it can happen any snap. It's about execution, and if we're playing some different techniques at different times, at any time you have the potential to give up a big play. So, these guys got to realize if I'm not in my right gap, if I don't have the proper leverage as a safety, if my eyes aren't right, all of a sudden they're by me, or if you get caught on the double move. There's so many things offensively that can create an explosive play. I hopefully, it's all about what we're going to talk about next Monday after this game, if that's the case or not. It's all about the next game. Good?
Anything else?
Okay.
We'll be back in with the offensive guys.
Thank you.
People want to play them look different. No, actually, live people. Robots later in the season.
Opening statement.
Oklahoma State's great.
You know Dana because he was your coach at one point in 2010. Tell me about, as you go to face Dana now, he's on the other team, coaching the other team. How would you expect his team to respond after they've kind of had some struggles offensively?
Coach Hogerson, he's a pretty good coach. I know he can, pretty much overcome that. West Virginia is a pretty good team. Their defense is really nice, but this isn't really about them. Again, I say that all the time. It's always about us. The way we prepare and just to go out there and take care of business. So,
Jeremy, does it surprise you that he's leaning on this run game? More than he ever has.
He's a great coach. His strongest weapon, he'll lean on. So if that is his run game, then they're going to run the ball. If it's his pass game, then they're going to pass the ball. So, but our defense, they're really good. I think they're going to go out there and take care of business.
You guys are 15 of 15 in the red zone this year with 15 touchdowns. Why are you guys able to have that type of success once you get inside of 20?
Everybody wants to score. And so when you have that, we're going to work that much harder just to get in the end zone. And really anybody can score on our offense just because of, the talent that we have. JW's a great quarterback, great leader. So he's going to make sure that we get in there.
Is there anything that's been tweaked with Coach Yurcich as far as approaching things inside the 20, or does it just kind of happen that way?
I really couldn't tell you. It's just a week-to-week thing, from, what we do. So I really just don't know. I pretty much just have to wait till that game week to figure, everything out.
You mentioned JW and his leadership and all this in the red zone. Is he audibling in and out of things that have helped you guys be even more effective in the red zone?
He's a great, quarterback. Whatever he sees, he's gonna, do, the play that we're supposed to do. Or if he sees something else, he's not gonna, probably gonna run that play. But he's great. He knows exactly what he's doing. He watches a lot of film. studies the opponent a lot. So, when we get down to the red zone, it's pretty much easy for him, for us to get it in.
Jeremy, two-part question. You were talking about how everybody wants to score. You got to score a bunch in the Lamar game. Talk about the pride you have in your ability to get short yards, short situations, and goal line, and then flip it and tell me how much you're looking forward to getting into some wide open spaces and breaking some big ones.
I can't do it, without the O-line, without J-Dub, and really the coaches who, call the plays. And my job is just to go out there and perform to the best of my ability. And so, again, I can't do it without those guys. So whenever I get in the end zone, all the credit to them.
What about breaking long ones, getting into some open space?
Again, it's really up to the O-line. If they make those big holes, then I'm just going to run through it, and hopefully I'll make somebody miss and score more touchdowns.
When's the last time somebody mentioned to you that you guys are the Big 12 favorites?
You hear it all the time, but, without us, not executing, not doing the little things right, if we don't do that, then, all those, all the talk really doesn't matter to us, So we pretty much just have to go out there and do what we know how to do. And that's just, play football, take it one game at a time, one play at a time. If something bad happens, you just got to throw it away and keep moving on.
You've been around this program a long time, but nobody on this team has ever been to Morgantown, West Virginia. So just what are you expecting out of that trip?
I keep hearing a lot of crazy stories, about the fans and stuff. So I'm ready just to go down there and see, if everything, is true. So. Well, I'm not gonna say that, but I heard that they're pretty loud, and that they really try to get in your heads, but we're not gonna let that happen. So.
Jeremy, what is JW like off the field? I've heard that he's actually pretty goofy.
Yeah, he is pretty goofy. He's a great guy. You can tell he loves football a lot just because he stays up all night playing it. That's probably why he's just so good at it. So, he's a great guy, great competitor on and off the field, whatever he does. And, I'm pretty much happy that, I get to spend this time with him.
Does he make you laugh?
Sometimes. He's not really that funny to me, but just funny. He's pretty funny.
With Big 12 play starting now, do you feel like this is really the start of the season? You haven't accomplished anything yet?
No, actually, the start of the season was when we played at Mississippi State. We got to take it a game at a time. Even though this is a Big 12 play, we just still got to do the little things right. And, again, West Virginia is a pretty good team, but, it's all about us. We just got to take care of business.
Jeremy, Dana was only here for a year, if that. In your mind, what's the impact that he left on this program?
Pretty much just to keep competing. You got to do the little things right. And pretty much, his motto was move fast. But now our motto now is move even faster. So, he pretty much got it going with the pace that we have. And we just got to keep going off that.
I know you're not inclined to answer questions like this because you're very humble, but if I were to ask you, give me some of Jeremy Smith's greatest hits. In other words, your favorite runs in your career. Can you rip off a few of those?
I really only have one, and that was just the year we played Texas at home, and I think it went for 70-something yards. And, that was just this big old hole that the line left. So, I just darted right through it and scored. So.
Texas would be on your list of top 10, I'm sure, a couple of times.
Oh, yeah. It was a great experience just to go down there and get a win at their home. Texas is a pretty great program. So anytime you can beat those guys is a great accomplishment.
You mentioned beating Texas at Texas. You guys have had some pretty good road success. What is it about this team that in recent years has helped you guys to be able to win on the road?
Well, Coach Gundy, I remember a long time ago, he kind of brought up 300. How they had to face, all those, different, guys. And that's pretty much how it is for us. We're not traveling with much. So we all have to stick together and be just one sound team. And, you know, when we go down there and do that, you know, we take care of, you know, things we're supposed to take care of, you know, we can win and beat anybody.
It wasn't too long ago that this program had its struggles on the road. It seemed to turn a corner maybe when you were a freshman or a sophomore. Did you sense older guys sort of, that was a different mentality, or the talent improved and it was just a foregone conclusion you were going to win on the road? I mean, do you remember the change?
I mean, before I even got here, I knew what Coach Gundy was going to bring to the table. You know, and Oklahoma State has always been my favorite, you know, school. But, you know, as soon as I got here, I see that, you know, this whole team is just going to turn around and, you know, we're going to get all type of, you know, wins against big programs, you know, small programs. It really doesn't matter. We're going to compete the same way. And, you know, I think the whole mindset, you know, with just going on the road is it really doesn't matter where you play. You know, football is football. So, you know, you just pretty much have to go out there and play like if you were at home, you know. Even when you're away, there's not going to be that many people there for you, but you still have those guys that you practice with every day, that you bleed and sweat with every day. And, I mean, you just got to go out there and compete, you know, with those guys, you know.
Did you do anything to escape from football this past weekend, or did you find yourself at a high school football game and watching some college games?
I was actually supposed to go to a high school game, but I didn't. I ended up just chilling with my girl, and, you know, we took some pictures on Saturday and just chilled on Friday. So, oh, yeah.
Jeremy, do you know the width of a football field?
What is it, 53? I just know it changes from college to the pros. I don't know.
Anything else for Jeremy before we bring Daytawion Walsh and Coach Yurcich?
Thanks, Jeremy.
And if you could please just address who it is that you're speaking to on the questions, so that I know which one is different.
Coach, this is as close as you get to going home this year, West Virginia. You grew up in that neck of the woods, sort of. Can you talk about the demand you had maybe for a coach, get me some tickets, or got some family coming or anything?
Yeah, you kind of hear from some folks you haven't heard from in a while, but it's a good thing. It's going to be really excited for my father who gets to come to a game. It's going to be his first Oklahoma State game, so I'm really excited for him. You know, he's taking care of his mother at home, so he doesn't have the ability to get out much. So when he does, it's a good deal, and he's got a sitter for grandma, and he's going to come enjoy the game. So I'm excited for him.
You were watching Oklahoma State game films even before you got here. Will it be interesting to be on the same field with the guy who pretty much installed this offense at this university? Sure. You know, at the same time, it's really about two great programs going at each other on Saturday, and that's really what the focus is, our team against their team.
J-Dub, kind of the same question I asked Jeremy about the red zone success. Why do you think you guys have been able to go 15 of 15 with 15 touchdowns so far this season?
I think it's just with all the depth we have at every position. You know, whoever's going to have the ball in their hands, you know, they're going to make plays, and, you know, it makes it easy on us as long as we can get the ball into their hands, and, you know, good things will happen, and that's what we've been able to do so far, so we're going to hope to continue with that.
Mike's kind of follow up on that. How much does it help to have a running quarterback in that type of situation?
Well, you know, not every coordinator, not every play caller is going to call great plays, and sometimes they cover you. And to have an athlete back there to make stuff happen when things aren't always designed as they're supposed to be is good. It's good flexibility. He makes you look good a lot of times.
Has that been a focus, the red zone production, just going back to the spring and fall camp and going into the season, just really making sure you're effective once you get in that sort of
Absolutely.
Talking about JW's ability to recognize defenses and get in and out of plays.
Well, I think our whole mentality is to go fast so we don't have to get in and out of plays too much. There has been occurrences where he has checked us into the correct play. I think he's growing at that. I think that's a process, and it's something I have to do a better job of teaching him. But at the same time, we don't want to focus on, okay, if they're in this, we want to check to that. If they're in that, we want to check this. We want to go and do what we do, and they have to defend it.
JW, would you refer to this offense up to this point as more efficient or explosive?
I think it's a little both. I think we've been 15 of 15 in the red zone, and that's pretty efficient. But at the same time, we've had a lot of explosive plays and plays that have, you know, ignited the offense. You know, when there's times when the offense is sputtering a little bit, not being able to roll. You know, we've had a lot of explosive plays to to get us on track and get us rolling. So I think we've had a little bit of both, which is, it's a blessing to be able to say that.
JW, all the players who've been up there so far have been asked what they do this weekend to get away from football. It would be stupid, wouldn't it, to ask you what you did to get away from football, because you ran to football this weekend, right? I mean, you were all around the game. You watched. You were probably your dad's game, whatever.
No, actually, I did not go home this weekend. No, because he had a bye week this week, so I didn't go home. But I mean, I definitely watched a lot of college football, and we don't have very many chances to have a full Saturday to watch all the games on TV, and so I definitely took advantage of that.
JW, did one of the games you watched, was it the West Virginia Maryland game, or do you prefer to wait until you see the game film rather than watch it on television?
Yeah, well, I watched the West Virginia game, but mostly just to enjoy, watching the game without having to break down what they're doing, and so to be able to.
He wanted to watch it without me in his ear. Get relaxed and watch the game.
Right, but it was nice to be able to get there and just relax and enjoy it. So.
Was there a game you absolutely had to watch this weekend?
No, I mean the West Virginia game was really one that I just wanted to watch, but I don't think there was that many games that were just kind of like last week's Bama and A&M game that were just on my must see.
JW, is he saying that he actually gets in your ear when you're watching game film? Does that actually happen?
Oh yeah, that happens.
Everyone's been talking about the efficiency with the offense. Do you think the travel down to Morgantown this past week off is going to affect that at all?
I don't think so. I think this year so far, every time we've traveled, we've handled it the right way, and we've traveled well, and we've handled it like it's a business trip. And I think with the leadership we have on the team, and I think we'll continue to handle it traveling with success.
That reference to 300 that Jeremy just mentioned, were you part of that meeting, or was that before you got here, as far as just road mentality?
Yeah, I think it was before I got here, but I mean, I definitely can see where he's coming from, and when you're going on the road, there was actually my freshman year when we traveled to A&M. Yeah, my locker was right next to Joseph Randall's, and he looked at me and smiled right before we went out and said, he said 80,000 people here, want you to fail, and he said, how could that not make you want to play better, and how could that not make you want to fight for your brothers harder? And I think that just goes with the saying with with what Jeremy said, that Gundy talked about 300. When you're going to go on the road and play against 50, 60, 70,000 who don't like you, want you to fail, as you can't get excited. You have to get excited for that. I mean, I mean, there's not a better feeling almost than to be able to go out there and shut up 70,000 people.
Coach, you've been in Oklahoma now for a while. You grew up back in the area of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. What kind of comparisons can you draw on the people and their attitudes toward football, this part of the country versus the part you grew up in?
I think football is king in both parts of the United States, where I grew up in Ohio and here as well in this region. From a recruiting standpoint, I think it's significantly different in this region with facilities, spring ball that high schools do, all those sorts of things. I think that's the biggest difference.
Coach, can you talk about Jeremy Smith? And it seems like he's almost going under the radar a little bit, but he's still doing very well.
Very consistent, and I'll tell you, Jeremy practices really hard, and he's great on the practice field, and that really correlates to production on Saturdays. So he's working hard at it all throughout the week, and then Saturday's payday for him. So he's a great leader. He holds onto the ball very well. He understands pass protections. He's a complete back.
Mike, you were talking about recruiting. I'm curious, with the extra opportunities for kids to play and be involved in football in this part of the country compared to other parts of the country, do you sense that players arrive at college with maybe a better grasp for the nuances of the game because they're exposed so much?
I think that's true. I also think the coaching in this region is spectacular, so I think they're getting coached up real well and that sort of thing. And I think all those things, when you take into account those factors, they all add up to maybe a little bit of a greater learning curve for the players that come from this area, possibly.
Going back to Robert's question for just a minute, let me elaborate on that. Has there been one or two or three things that have just jumped out at you and impressed you when you arrived at Oklahoma State University?
Well, I think the first thing, and I said this several times before, I don't care where you come from. I think when you step into these facilities, there's a wow factor to it. And I think that was the first thing that really stood out. And then we got right into observing workouts in the wintertime and the amount of athletes that we have and the quality athlete that we have and what Coach Glass does in the strength and conditioning department is impressive. Those were the things that really initially stood out.
Have you been in that stadium to see a game, West Virginia Stadium?
I have not.
Coach, you said earlier that you guys stress red zone efficiency. Everybody wants to score in the red zone, wants to score touchdowns. What makes a good team in the red zone, and what's made you guys good so far?
A good kicking game is very important in the red zone. Taking care of the football, obviously. Those sorts of things are important, and I think striving towards balance. I think when you can pass the ball and run the ball equally, you give yourself the best chance, and the defense can't, lean in one direction or another. So balance is key. A good kicking game and ball security are keys in the red zone.
JW, Dana was only here about a year. What in your mind is the lasting impressions that he's left on this program?
Just the offense we still run, is the offense that he brought here. I think that's one thing that's kind of all he's kind of got left now is he's got his offense that we run, and even then, we've tweaked it a bunch and we've added our own nuances over the years. So.
Did he recruit you directly?
He did.
Okay.
Mike, you mentioned your dad getting a chance to come to the game at the top. Just what type of impact did he have on you football-wise, just as a kid, and I guess how cool was it that he's going to get to
Well, he coached me, and I'm sure, Jay's in a very similar situation with his father. My dad was my coach growing up, and he's very supportive and, pushed me and at the same time put his arm around me. So it wasn't like he was one of those dads that was always hounding me, He was there to, pick me up when I was down and that sort of thing, and he was my biggest fan. So he's been real big for me growing up.
Mike, did you say he takes care of his mom?
Yes, she's 104.
I was going to say, how old is she? Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, he's 71. She's 104.
JW, I've seen it a little bit on social media, but it seems like you and Charlie Moore and Josh Stewart are kind of goofy off the field. Y'all have a lot of fun together. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. That's accurate with a lot of guys on the team. We've gotten to a point where everyone's so comfortable with each other, and we've kind of just meshed together. And in the locker room, everyone's so goofy with each other, and it's hard not to be when you want to go out there and have success with guys and treat it like a business. But at the same time, you got to have fun with it. The sport's fun. You got to go have fun. And these guys, we don't hang out with really anybody else other than the team. So we've gotten to a point where we can just do everything together and be goofy around each other. So.
Would you say that you have almost two different personalities on the field, down to business, running the offense, in the locker room, the jokester, I guess?
Oh, yeah. And I think, that's with a lot of guys just because, we go out there and as soon as we step on the field, it's time to go to work and it's time to strap it on and perform. But then when you get in the locker room, you gotta have you can't just be business all the time, and you gotta relax and be able to have fun.
Who tries to be funny and really isn't?
Probably me.
Oh, I don't know. We've got. I'd probably go Josh. He tries. He thinks he's funny, but I don't know.
At the time Coach Holgerson was recruiting you, if you ask these people here, they're going to say that Dana's a pretty interesting guy. When he was recruiting you, did you think he was a pretty interesting guy?
That's a pretty accurate assumption. He was a character when people talk about his coaching style and then recruiting. He was definitely a lot of fun to get recruited by and talk to, and I know he's a great coach. So, that's definitely a pretty accurate way of.
You didn't play against him last year. I believe Clint made his first start. Did you kind of miss not getting a chance to play against Dana last year?
I just miss being able to play. That's the biggest thing. I don't really care who I'm playing against or who's on the other side of the field. It's just as long as if I'm hurt, not getting to play, then that's the biggest thing I was upset about.
Coach Yurcich, are there lighthearted moments at practice?
Sure. I think anytime you find some times to let go a little bit and enjoy the moment a little bit. Sure. They're fleeting though.
Mike, a lot of talk about the red zone efficiency and success, but you've preached this from the beginning. Your ball security has been nearly perfect. Talk about how happy you are with that, because that's making good decisions as well as doing
Yeah,
right.
and a lot of it, you kind of feel like you're in the dugout right now. It's the 8th inning. You don't want to talk about that no-no. You know what I mean? You don't want to talk about that no-hitter. So, it's good. We got to keep it up. Got to continue to work at it. Blah, 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 But, it really comes from our head coach down. I mean, it's something that he's preached the whole time. From my interview the first time I met him to all the way down through this morning, talking about ball security and snatching the ball and, putting the eagle claw on the football and tucking it away. It's something we do every day. Our assistant coaches do a great job of communicating and facilitating drills that help us to where Saturday it's just habit. It's muscle memory. And that stuff comes throughout the week, and it comes with effort. And our players do a good job of understanding those fundamentals and working hard at them.
It came up in your interview?
Ball security?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that'd be good. I need that. That's probably big.
Hey, Mike, does tempo help you even more in the red zone?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. You talk about substitution, goal line defense, substituting guys in, and by the end of the drive, you're usually in the red zone, or you like to be. So, again, they're at the top end of being tired, right? So, that's really when you see the culmination of your turbos, your tempos, and then they're exhausted, and you wear them out, and that's the end of it.
JW, a lot's been talked about your toughness and just that attribute of your game. Kind of a weird question, but what's the worst pain you've ever felt in your life physically, and how did you work your way through that?
I don't know. I think I hurt my elbow back in my sophomore year at high school, and that hurt. I was out like 6 weeks, but I mean, I couldn't tell you the worst pain I've ever felt. I would say it's probably not on the football field. I haven't been hurt that often on the football field. I think I've only had 2 serious injuries and
keep knocking.
Yeah. But no, I really couldn't go back, and I don't know. But I know working through it's a mental thing. No matter how physical the pain is, it's always a mental thing, and you can tell. I mean, it can hurt as bad as it wants, but you always just got to tell yourself that it's going to be fine. You're going to get better. You can push through it. So
there was something off the field that you can recall?
Yeah. I was climbing a fence and my shoelace got caught and fell down, and I was hanging for a second, and it was a real high fence, and when I fell, like my shoelace came untied and I caught with both my wrists and broke both wrists. I was a first grader.
Were you walking around with 2 casts on your foot?
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
It is funny.
It's funny now.
Unless you're the offensive coordinator.
Don't do that.
No.
One cast or both casts in your first grade classroom?
That was both casts.
Nice. How much pain was the knee last year when you got hurt?
It really wasn't that much pain. I think the adrenaline had a lot to do with it. I didn't want to come off the field, and it wasn't bad enough to where I had to come off the field. And the next day probably hurt worse than actual, being on the field. So.
Robert. I turned mine down. I learned my lesson, okay? Wow, nice
I think they want to. I think our guys embrace that, and they understand that's who we are, and that's an edge, and that's something that we can really take advantage of. So I think that our players get it, embrace it, and it becomes part of who they are.
What's your biggest concern going into the game today?
The same things. Make sure we travel well. Make sure we're focused, concentrated on. Those sorts of things that you can control. Short yardage calls, red zone calls. Making understand we know our package coming out of the end zone, situational football. Those are my biggest concerns. Things that we can't control.
How comfortable do you feel now calling plays than game 1?
It's about the same level, probably a little bit more comfort, just because it's 3-4 games in now, and you understand a little bit more of the communication process. But we did a good job prepping for game 1, so there really were no surprises. So that comfort level just naturally grows with the amount of games that you have in.
This might be a better question for JW, but since they haven't used a camera on you in the booth much, how expressive are you when you're calling plays? Are you pretty quiet?
I don't know. That's the last thing that's going through my mind on 3rd and 10 is how am I going to look calling this play? Probably, I don't know.
You
know.
don't take selfies while you're calling.
Nah, it didn't happen. I don't know. I'm sure my wife, if she sees me on TV picking my nose, she'll make sure I don't do that again.
I have a question for you. You went from UTSA, you were 24 and 27, 326 yards, to Lamar, where you were, you were 17 and 30 and about 181 yards. What can you take from your performances on those 2 days in preparing for West Virginia this weekend?
I think you got to look at the good and you got to look at the bad. I mean, you got to see what you did well and continue to grow on that, and then the things that you didn't do as well, you definitely got to correct those and you got to move on. You can't, once you watch the game film the next day, that game's in the past. You don't need to look at it too much. You just got to keep moving forward and play the next game.
Good. Thank you.
Well, our guys had a few days off and then back to practice last night, day off today, and a normal week before we travel out to West Virginia on Friday morning. So got everybody back and safe, and was happy with getting the players back and looking forward to a good week of practice and heading out to West Virginia.
Mike, you probably know Dana as well as anybody around here. How do you think he's dealing with and handling the struggles they've had so far, personality-wise?
Oh, I think he'll be fine. Obviously they're a long ways away from us, so we don't get much on them, and I don't really pay much attention to what's going on outside of our program. So, without speaking for him, it's a learning process. I think that most of us go through in being a head coach.
Speaking of long ways away, is it hard to wrap your head around the fact that you're going halfway across the country for a conference game? Is that just college football in 2013?
Oh, I think most people in this region, this part of the country, have a hard time with it. I think it's the future. I think there'll be some conferences come together and consolidate even more in the future. I don't know anybody can predict when and where, but with television money and the direction we're going, I would say that it could be the future.
You were the preseason favorite in the Big 12. If I were to give you truth serum when you took this job in 2005, would you ever envision a time when you would be the preseason favorite in the Big 12?
Oh, I don't know that I ever thought that far ahead. When I got the job, I thought that we had a huge task, and we were going to have to work diligently day by day, and never really put much thought into it until we started collecting some players that I felt like had the capability of playing in the NFL. And once we started to gather some of those guys on our team, in most cases, if you get good quarterback play and you have a few guys that are going to get picked in the draft, you have a chance to win your conference.
You talk about Jeremy Smith and what his impact has been this year. He's maybe been a little under the radar, but he's obviously been very effective.
Jeremy has played well for us, and he's been a good leader. And as we progress through the season and in conference play, he's going to have to carry the ball more, and you'll see him start to show up more statistically than what he has in preseason.
What's been the biggest key to approaching these road games? You said on the conference call last night that it's just another road game going to West Virginia, but how do you prepare these guys to go well, because your Big 12 road success has been really good the last few years?
Oh, I don't know that it's any different. Unfortunately, this will be our 6th out of our last 7 games that we're playing away from Boone Pickens. So I would hope that it's helped us some. If there is anything to gain from it, we've done it quite a bit lately. And, I think fundamentals, being simple, discipline and structure are important in playing on the road. And fortunately, we've had enough good players to weather the storm over the last few years. And you have to start fast. When you play on the road, you got to get going early in the game and try to take the crowd out of it.
Jeremy said that you once referenced the movie 300 as far as just.
What's that?
He said Jeremy Smith said you once referenced the movie 300 as kind of a road motivator.
Well, and when you go on the road, there's, we'll travel with 70 players, give or take a few, and a staff, an airplane, a travel party will be total around 115. Then there's always some people on the plane that really aren't associated with us, that may work in the other side of the building. But when you get there, it's 100, 115 people against however many their stadium holds for the most part. So we've always challenged our team that way, and told them to come together as a group and play hard, and it gives them the best chance to win.
Speaking about the road, Mike, do you give Mac Butler any parameters, like I want to stay about this far from the stadium? Just some general rules that you like about travel, or do you kind of let him bring the options to you? How does that work?
Well, first off, Mac is probably as good as anybody in the business at what he does. And he comes to me a year in advance, and we discuss travel. It varies some based on kickoff time. But going to West Virginia, our options are limited in airports to land, airports to come out of, based on plane size, and a facility that can hold our travel party, 115 or so. So there's not as many options. So, but we altered our plans just a little bit based on a early morning kickoff.
I believe you were in Florida when you got the text saying that you were watching your sons play baseball, when you get the text that said, hey, OSU's the Big 12 favorite. You didn't need a you arrived moment, because that would have happened in 2011 when you actually won the Big 12. But was it validation that the program is continues to stay around?
Well, in August, I said I think that validates the people in this part of the country have a lot of respect for our football team. Certainly doesn't mean anything. You still have to play them all, because we were in that situation. And as I said, I felt like there were a couple years in the last 4 or 5 years that we had the best team, and we were picked third or second or whatever it may be. So I think that Oklahoma State's come a long ways in football and is starting to develop and build some tradition, but we still have a ways to go.
You've had different offensive coordinators, different personalities between Fedora and obviously Dana and Monk, and even yourself. Got a lot of attention sitting on the trunk, mapping out series. You're listening on the headsets, but what kind of demeanor do you get from Yurcich during a game upstairs?
Well, Mike is very calm, and they have good interaction together. We have smart coaches on our team. There's several guys on our coaching staff that are deserving of being coordinators that don't have that so-called title at this time. And it's important for both of our coordinators to interact with our other coaches and take advice and get information, and Mike does a nice job of that. We've had all different kinds here in many different ways, and I'm happy with the way Mike handles the game, his approach, and his demeanor on game day.
You guys are 15 of 15 in the red zone so far this year with 15 touchdowns. What's been the key to having that type of success, and how much of it has Yurcich done anything differently as far as play calls, or just kind of how is that all?
I think that our ability to to run the football with the quarterback has helped those statistics. Obviously, Mike, just like a quarterback or a head coach, if you have success, he's going to get some credit. If you don't, he's going to get the blame. So, but as I mentioned earlier, I think that we have a wealth of knowledge on both sides of the ball, and those guys have had a good plan. And we'll know a lot more as we start to run through conference schedule here in the next few weeks of kind of where we're at in those areas and as a football team.
Do you think that your pre-conference games help prepare you and your new coaches to gel with each other and get a good feel for each other and prepare for conference?
Yeah, I thought that offensively in particular was much better in the last game, and you know, it was an easy game for us. But I've been on headsets and listened to coaches in games where we won by 4 or 5 touchdowns, and I wasn't as comfortable with the language and not necessarily language, but the conversation that went on. So I think that they've improved defensively. Glenn and Van had been here, and those guys have conversation, but not as much as what I'm accustomed to from an offensive side.
Does preparation change going from your non-conference schedule into your conference games at all, or just stay the same?
Same.
You mentioned Matt Butler. Here's another unsung hero. Your equipment guys have to get from point A to point B, and sometimes point B can be really far away.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work. You know, Wes Edwards is another guy that does a great job for us. We're very lucky to have a number of guys that work in those different fields that work very hard and kind of behind the scenes. And this one's a challenge for them. We've got a number of student workers that don't get an opportunity to fly on our plane. They've got to go commercial because we can only get a certain size of plane in an airport. So there's some challenges in relocating on Friday afternoon.
Coach, who's the biggest comedian on the team? Who's the funniest guy?
Well, that's a good question. I know that Barnett always seems comical. Offensively, I would say that Josh Stewart is usually laughing and joking around. I don't catch that side of him much, but those would be the two if I had to name two.
Coach, how important is it for you guys to start the Big 12 playoff with a win?
Well, every game's important for us, and conference play is, you know, you have a preseason schedule, and your goal is to finish 3-0, and then you go to conference play, and if you don't fare as well in non-conference as you wanted to, then you're able to reestablish a goal in conference play. But they're all important. If you don't play well in non-conference, then there's not as much excitement in the program going into conference play. So, you know, we only get an opportunity to play 13 of them, and so we want to take advantage of every opportunity we have to play well on Saturdays.
Mike, you're on the backside of the bye week. Was it good for you?
I think so. You know, it's good for us to get out and recruit. And players get a couple days. I'm not a big fan of a bye week this early in the season. I'd prefer to have one after the 5th or 6th game and then play the rest of the stretch. But, again, that's something that's out of my control at this time. Bye weeks are here. They're from now on because of television and them trying to market and make more money late in the year in December. So we have to get adjusted to having, really for us, what's three open dates now in a 12-game season.
It's so early, and you don't see everybody else, but does number 11 in the rankings feel about right for this team?
I don't have any idea. You know, just like what you said, it's so early. I'm not sure that there should be any polls out before October 1. That's just my opinion. And I don't see enough teams. I just don't watch that many other teams play if they're not on a cross schedule.
Did you watch West Virginia and Maryland?
Very little. I saw 10 plays maybe. It was in between the time I was got home from games and trying to load up and get ready to go dove hunting.
I assume you guys were recruiting JW before Dana got on campus, but I know he recruited JW. Can you talk about sort of what he saw that sort of reinforced what JW could do in that offense that he was bringing in?
Dana, we knew about JW, but Dana kind of pushed the issue with him, and his relationship with Coach Walsh was really good. And from that point forward, when we saw his tape and his history of being a winner, it didn't really take much to convince us to bring him in. But he was the one that kind of pushed the envelope early.
Considering Dana's offense is known so much for throwing it, and JW was more dual threat with maybe an emphasis on the running, kind of interesting to me that he really wanted to.
Yeah, you're right. But just the winner, that just the attitude and his ability to perform and be successful, that conversation took place, and we felt like that what he brought to the table as a competitor, we would find a way to improve areas that we thought that would fit our offense. Good? All right. Thank you.